All right, bowl game. Off with recruiting and on to the Golden Gophers. So thank y'all for being here. Before I get started, I want to recognize our graduates. We'll do this. I know you all saw them on social media. We're doing a reception here in just a little bit for them, and they'll walk tomorrow. Proud of them, and probably don't talk about it as much as we need to. But I think with everything that's going on, really proud of these guys. Several of them still have some eligibility left, so that's a positives too. So graduating tomorrow, Letty Brown, Vandarius Cowan will graduate, James Gamitter, Sam James, Casey Legg, Evan Mathis, Jackie Matthews, Michael Laughlin, Sean Ryan, Dante Steele, Bryce Wheaton, and Scotty Young. I'll say those guys again. So Letty Brown, Vandarius Cowan, James Gamitter, Sam James, Casey Legg, Evan Mathis, Jackie Matthews, Michael Laughlin, Sean Ryan, Dante Steele, Bryce Wheaton, Scotty Young. So a big number, and proud of those guys. I think there's just a lot that goes into it. And I think sometimes we overlook the fact that, these guys are well taken care of, but they're in essence doing two full-time jobs as a student and as an athlete. And so proud of those guys. We're going to celebrate them tonight. Their family and friends are going to gather in Touchdown Terrace for a reception, and then they'll walk tomorrow, which is a big deal. So wanted to recognize that. Looking forward to finishing the season in Phoenix. I think that it's been an up and down year. I think I've been pretty honest about that. We finished on a high note, 2 wins there the last 2 weeks. We were sitting at 2-4 during a bye week, and we rallied to win 4 of our last 6, and then 2 in a row to get bowl eligible. And for our program, I think it's the 18th time in the last 20 years to do that. So a lot of respect for what P.J. Fleck has done, not only at Minnesota, but also at Western Michigan. When you watch them, they're a really good football team. They're 8-4, could easily probably be 10-2. They're a team that their physicality and their toughness is what stands out to you. I want to talk about the Kirk Soraka just briefly, because I'm kind of tell you how all that went so we can talk about it and then kind of move on. But Kirk spent the season here as an analyst. And he was a huge help to us. He's one of the people that I'm probably closest with in the industry. And he worked with PJ both at Western Michigan and at Minnesota as his offensive coordinator. And I think it's important for our fans and everybody know is there was a time period between our last game and then the bowl announcement, I think a week. And within that week is when PJ and Kirk, and really not them, but Minnesota and Kirk finalized the deal for him to return. And that was done before the bowl announcements were made. So, and I was supportive. I think it's a great fit for Coach Fleck. I think it's a great fit for Kirk to return there. And then when the bowl announcements got announced, we talked. Kirk and I talked, and then Coach Fleck and I talked, and it's odd, and we both felt like that it needed to be about our players, both the Minnesota players and the West Virginia players. And so my understanding is Kirk's not going to go to Arizona. He's not going to coach in the bowl game, and I'm supportive of that. And so just wanted to talk about that and then move on. I know PJ addressed it earlier as well. But when you look at Minnesota, I think from a special team standpoint is when you look at them is they play really, really hard and they're sound. And they've been that way the whole time at Minnesota. At Western Michigan, the special teams coordinator was at both places with Coach Fleck, and they play special teams. If you look at them, both their punt team and their kickoff team have done a really nice job. Their coverage units, they've got a core group that you can tell they have pride in, and you see a lot of the same people showing up on those coverage units. The return game is we've got to get our kickoff unit ready. The Irving kid, who's a freshman running back, he's coming to his own here later in the season, but he's a threat for sure. And so and their kickoff and their punter, they've got an Australian punter that can do a lot of things. Their kickoff guys, I think he's almost 70% touchback. So really, really sound in special teams. Then it go offense, and they're a team that's built around playing great defense, which they do play great defense. We'll talk about them here in a second. And then the strength of their football team offensively is in the offensive line. You know, they've ran the ball against everybody they've played, and I think that's a testament to the offensive line. They're big at tight end, they're physical, and they've lost several running backs as they've gone through the season, but they've continued to be productive in the run game. You know, I think they probably have at minimum 3 NFL players on their offensive line. I think all 5 of them made at least one of the all-conference Big Ten teams. I think that tells you something as well. And then at receiver, the Ottman Bell kid, number 7, he's made a bunch of plays for him. And then Tanner Morgan, he's a guy that's played a ton of football, and he's won a lot of games. You look back at his career in Minnesota, he's played extremely, extremely well. I think I told you this before. He's somebody that I'm really familiar with, that I've been watching from afar, cheering for him. He's from Hazard, right across the border, and finished his high school career up in Northern Kentucky at Ryle High School. So he came to our youth camp at the University of Kentucky. And so really happy for him that he's progressed and playing at a high level. And then look at them defensively, they're really good. And if you look at their last 6 games, nobody's had more than 300 yards against them. I don't remember the last time I played an opponent that had gone on a stretch like that. And I think they're in the top 10 nationally in a bunch of different defensive categories. I think it starts up front. They're really good. They play 3 guys that are all really talented in the interior of their defensive line. They've got 2 defensive ends. Both of them have Senior Bowl invitations. Linebacker, they're long. You know, they're 6'3", 6'4", both inside linebacker spots. And the whole group as a whole is a veteran group. 9 seniors, 1 junior in that starting 11. So a group that has not only been really successful, but they've got a lot of experience as well. And so that's kind of Minnesota. Our guys are excited. We've practiced just to kind of understand the schedule. We practiced the Saturday immediately following the Kansas game, and then we practiced last Saturday, and then we brought them back, and we've practiced Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We'll practice tomorrow, give them some time off, and then pick back up next Wednesday. It's kind of what our schedule looks like, so you have an idea of that. The other thing too is I thought that, you know, postseason honors wise, I thought we had some guys that didn't receive some honors. I thought they were capable of receiving on the all Big 12 team. So I wanted to make a note of that. But with that, I'll open it for questions, please.
So Neal, obviously the question, I mean, your conversation with Letty about his decision, and then any others that
that's Letty's the only one to this point. I think he'll be the only one, and it was a decision that Letty made. And here's the thing: we can debate on these opt-outs and all that. For Letty, he made a decision. Love Letty Brown. I think he was an extremely tough competitor for us, especially the last 2 seasons. And I think it's a unique case. Letty had to play probably more snaps than we really would have wanted him to play, especially early in the year, because we lacked some depth there at the running back position. Tony was coming back from the injury. We didn't feel like the other guys were ready at that point. So he does. He's played a lot of football this year. So I'm understanding of him. I thought he handled that very well. What he wrote, I thought was well done. He's a guy that loves West Virginia. He's passionate about this place. But I'm understanding of his decision.
Following up, not the opt-outs, but the injuries. You had some at the end of the year. You even insinuated Nick Troy may be able to get back for a bowl game.
Yeah, I was hopeful. I don't think so, though. Yeah, he'll be out. We're going to get some guys back. Let's see, Lance Dixon will be back available for the bowl game. Going through here. Bryce Wheaton, who missed last game, you know, he's almost recovered, you know, kind of taking it easy on him, but feel like he'll be full speed for sure when we get back here Wednesday. Anybody else, Greg, that you got?
Jackie was hurt.
Jackie, yeah, he got hurt. He's back. Yep, he's back. He's practiced full speed here the last 2 days. Anybody else got questions? That's your.
All I can think of injury-wise.
Okay.
Opportunity for Tony, obviously.
Oh, it's a great opportunity. Yeah, it's a great opportunity. He's played good football, really. If you go back, he's kind of gotten better and better since the bye week. He's had some big moments. Obviously, the Kansas game. He played almost every snap in the second half of the Kansas game. I think Letty hit the big run, and then Tony brought it home. So he's ready. He's ready. I think it's a great opportunity for him. It's a good opportunity for Justin Johnson. It gives us a little insight into next year. So I think there's some positives in the situation as well, not only for Tony but for us offensively and as a team.
Is there any hope,
Yeah, no, he's not eligible for the game.
You had a discussion with Dougie yet about his future?
Nah. I'm not really, and I'm not trying to avoid it, Bob, is all these guys that have an extra year, like I have on purpose, we'll talk about it at the end, because it doesn't affect, we've already got our 32 scholarships, and so it's not something where we're making decisions for them. They're going to play the bowl game. He's not the only one. There's a few other ones. We'll just deal with it after the 28th.
Does anything change from Davie's preparation standpoint after he struggled in the bowl last year? Do you put that behind you? Do you kind of consider that?
No, I think he's very aware of that. And so what we've done is we've changed up our prep a little bit too. Last year was, and he did not play very well. I think he would take full ownership of that too. But our season was so odd last year at the end. If you remember, we played one game over a 6-week period. And so pass game is such a rhythm deal. And then we had the shutdown with COVID too. So we were out of the facility for about 10 days. So what we've tried to do this year is we've had, like I went through our practice deal, but while we were out on the road as coaches, they had 4 different throwing sessions. And so to keep in rhythm, so I think that'll be helpful. But he's got to go out and perform. But last year was odd. Like I said, I'm not making an excuse for him. He didn't play very well. We didn't play very well at all offensively. We had a bunch of drop balls too, if you'll remember. But I think we've done a better job in this year of staying in rhythm, and we're not having to deal with some of the same issues we had last year.
I've asked this from Coach Neal and on through. The balance of having fun at a bowl game with taking care of business. How do you practice when you're out there and those type of things?
So here's what our mentality's been. I think it's important. We always talk about what's our goals for the game. Number 1 is to win the game. Number 2 is make it an enjoyable, memorable experience. The third thing is to salute our senior class as they leave the program. Is make sure that we honor them in the right way. And the fourth thing is to build momentum for the next season. And those are the goals that I think this is the 6th time that we've had an opportunity as a head coach to lead a team into a bowl, and those are the same ones we've used every time. And it's a maybe 5, I don't know. I can't remember, getting old. But maybe 5 now I'm thinking about it. But and so those are what we talk about. And we try to do everything we possibly can. From an entertainment, from a gear to a meal standpoint, to treat it like a reward. Our practices are much quicker. What we do is we'll hold our Monday night football crew for about the last 20 minutes. But our guys, we practice anywhere from an hour to hour and 10 minutes. We cut our meeting times down because you got some more prep time, so you don't need those long meetings like you do when it's intense for a week. And so we try to do those things. And we do treat them different. This is not just your regular game. This is a bowl game that's supposed to be a reward, and we try to treat it as such. And we want it to be a good experience for them, and it's a deserving experience for them.
You've been successful in bowl games as a head coach. Do you still tweak what you do, or have you found a formula that you think works?
Well, you have an overriding formula as far as, and I think for us it's making them enjoyable. But you have to tweak. Absolutely. Like when you play the game, one of the harder things to do during that time in the month of December is especially when you're playing a team as physical as Minnesota is and what they're trying to do, is there's a fine line. What's enough and what's not enough. Because you don't want to go and get your team and they're not prepared for the physicality. So you have to do enough, but it's a fine line because the later you get, especially in today's world we live in, your thinner your roster is. And then also you got to work a calendar, because you got to remember the 2 weeks previous to this one, every assistant coach, myself, is on the road for 10 to 12 days right there. And so you're really dependent on your strength staff to keep the guys in shape. We use our young coaches that are eligible to be out on the field, the 4 on-field GAs, and they're able to get some work done. And so it's a balance. It's a balance. I think we've had success. We've had some good experiences in bowl games. I think because we've been able to walk that fine line, Greg, between getting enough done but not over and making sure the experience is enjoyable. But we're playing a group that I think they've done a really good job too. I think Minnesota's won their last several bowl games. I think PJ's won his last several as a head coach. So they've got a formula that works for them as well.
help us, who do they remind you of similarity-wise on your schedule? Offensively?
Yeah, I think Baylor's probably the closest. They've offensively Baylor majored in outside zone. This group here at Minnesota runs a ton of outside zone in very similar in the way they run it from an O-line perspective. Baylor's secondary run is inside zone. That's their secondary run as well. And depends on who they play. Sometimes they're more inside zone. And then they do the RPOs. They hit some shots downfield. They're really good on defense, just like Baylor's really good on defense. And so that would probably be the closest comparison. How they're set up defensively from a 4-down perspective is the same as Baylor. But I think that's who I would the closest. And it's not a copycat by any means, but that's probably the closest comparison in our league.
2 years ago, their numbers are really good defensively. Like you said, now 2 years ago that wasn't the case. The kind of jump they took was kind of like you guys from 19 to 20. I don't know if you go back to 19 and watch film or not, but when you see that kind of jump, what do you kind of attribute that to? I know they brought in a couple transfers.
Well, I think if you look at it, most of those guys, there's a couple transfers. There's one of the linebackers and the Pinckney kid from Clemson are transferred, but most of those guys grew up through the system. I think their defensive coordinator has done a really good job of their fundamentals are really, really good. They don't do a ton defensively until you get to third down, but fundamentally they're really sound, and you can tell they put an emphasis on tackling. They tackle extremely, extremely well at all three levels.
A lot is made of young players getting a couple extra weeks of practice in bowl prep. How much do you drill them? Do you do the Monday night football through this entire time?
So what we try to do, Greg, is to me you start in the fall and it really kind of builds all the way through the bowl. And so the way we go about it is in season, every game week, we don't tackle, but we scrimmage those guys on Monday night. And that's why we call it Monday Night Football, give them a theme. But we do it once a week. During a bye week, we always do it 3 times. And then from about the middle point on, what we do is we keep them on Tuesday and Wednesday and do about 10 minutes of fundamentals. And there's a couple reasons why you do that. I think it's important they get coached. And it's also, it's good for their mental health, because they're getting their coaches, they're working with them. They're not just on scout team all the time. They're not just in the weight room, because most of those guys in our developmental group that don't go to position meetings, they lift weights. Okay, so we trade out that. And then when we get into this time, we try to get anywhere from 7 to 10 days, depending on how the calendar falls, of where we play Monday Night Football. And then we make it fun. We score it. We have an award. We give them. They'll have. I think the defense won during the bye week because we do it. We do 3 consecutive days and we score the whole thing, and the defense won. And we'll do this during the bowl prep where we score it, and then the offense Monday Night Football or the defense Monday Night Football wins. So we make it competitive. But it does, I think, and it all adds up. And the way I sell it to those guys is you're going through the developmental group. Okay, so they really get 12 weeks of an off-season program. But also, if you add all that football time, the Monday Night Football 12 times, 3 times during the bye week, and then during the bowl prep, it really almost is equivalent of having another spring practice. So if you think about it, a kid comes in, whether it's a second-year O-lineman, D-lineman, or it's a freshman, they come in, they get 8 weeks in the summer, 12 weeks. Okay, so they get 20 weeks of an off season. Then they get another 8 weeks. That's 28 weeks of off season. Okay, from the first time they got on campus, right? And then they do the Monday Night Football and 15 spring practices before they go get ready for their next season. That's a lot of work. And you can see them getting better. And like some guys like Hammond Russell is getting better. He probably will earn some playing time in this bowl game because he's got some time left. Andrew Wilson-Lamp, Davis Mallinger, those guys are getting better. Jaito's back practicing. This has been a really good time for him to get some reps because he was out with the ACL injury. He's back. Offensively, Tomas Rimac. Okay, he's getting a bunch of reps. So you can see him getting better. Justin Johnson, it's been a really beneficial time for him. And so Goose Crowder. Those are some guys that you're like, okay, hey, these guys have gotten a lot better as we've worked through the season here.
What's the situation at tight end? Obviously with TJ, how are you guys going to approach that?
Yeah, so we've got a couple guys that have played, and so Charles Finley, he's played. You got Victor Wickstrom, who's been doing all the Monday Night Football. He's going to get some some more playing time. There's a couple different bodies that we may surprise some people, but who we line up there. But we got people capable. That we won't miss a beat from what we've been doing there.
What special problems does physicality present in a bowl game, especially when you're shortening practice and
Yeah, it used.
treated as a reward as well as a football game?
Well, you've got to get, and that's what I was telling our offensive and defensive linemen, because so much of what the receivers, DBs, quarterbacks, those guys can. Their timing is really good because we've done these throwing sessions and we've kind of practiced with just helmets on, and they don't miss a beat. Well, yesterday was the first time that we've put pads on. Today was second day we've put pads on going back to Kansas. So it'll be 3 weeks tomorrow since we played Kansas. And so it takes a little while. And so I think we've got a good formula for this. Is we're doing more good on good work and there's some similarities between what we do on offense, what they do on offense. There's some similarities between what they do on defense and what we do on defense. So we've really focused on good work this week. We'll do a little bit more scout work next week. But our guys are going to be ready to go. We'll do enough where we'll be ready from a run game perspective on both sides.
You mentioned Hammond Russell as a guy you're going to be able to redshirt, but still play. Others, I mean, especially I'm thinking safety, defensive back.
We've about used all those guys up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we about used them all up, and we had to use them there at the end of the year. And so most of those guys that you would ask about, they've already played their 4 games, and we don't have intention to play them in this game.